Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Greater Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got another 20 for 20 for you. That's right, a challenge where I am building a deck in literally 20 minutes, and the deck itself is going to cost $20 or less. So budget on a quick amount of time. Let's jump into it. So the commander for this 20 for 20 is going to be an oldie but a goodie. Omnath before it got all evil and Phyrexian and 5-colored. 2-color Omnath, the Angry Jelly Bean itself. Omnath, Locus of Rage, a 5/5 elemental for 7 mana in Gruul. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token. On top of that, whenever it or another elemental control dies, it's going to lightning bolt an opponent in the face. Or, one of their creatures or anything, essentially. But lightning bolt something. Most likely an opponent in their face. So, essentially, this strategy for this commander is very simple. Lands. Lands here, lands there, lands everywhere. The more lands you get into play, from ramping, from just playing your lands in a turn, from other effects as well, essentially, you are going to be getting more and more and more elementals that are very deadly, and we can make them even deadlier. And when they die, they're still deadly. Being able to dish out that lightning bolt worth of damage each time is going to be fantastic. With all that said, let's jump into the tactics. So we've got the 20-minute timer started, and first up, we're going to be talking about, double-checking my notes, lands. Yeah, ramp spells essentially is what we're going to be talking about. So on Scryfall, let's add in a new folder. New deck, essentially. We are going to be talking about, cards like, Cultivate, of course. Go get 2 basics. One goes into our hand, one goes into play tap. So essentially, 2 landfall triggers. Not delayed, but still. Then we've got Rampant Growth, of course. Wayfarer's Bauble. Yeah, that's right. First up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Burnished Heart, that's 2 lands. Harrow, sacrificing 1, getting 2. Springbloom Druid, basically Roiling Regrowth, essentially, which is basically Harrow. Search for Tomorrow, a great turn 1 play. We're going to hold off on Farhaven Elf for now. And I will say that with these 20 for 20s, I'm putting these together on the fly. As you can see, there will be cuts. At the end, I will have the deck list that is, having cuts, but I think I can already cut Farhaven Elf. I'm sorry, Farhaven Elf. Migration Path, Explosive Vegetation, essentially. Explosive Vegetation, there you go. Roiling Regrowth. Fertilid, we might hold off on that one as well, although it is an elemental, actually, so let's put that one in there because that is Lightning Bolt worthy. Colony Heart Expedition, yeah, essentially when we're getting more and more lands into play, get more counters on this, sacrifice it, go get 2 lands into play tapped. Beanstalk Giant can be a threat as well as ramp for us. Mikosoth Wellspring, as well as some other cards that just get like lands into our hand. We don't really care about that as much. We'd rather have lands into play. Raging Raptors, we kind of have to ensure that we are actually getting that hit. We're not going to be all that, confident with that. Navigation Orb really isn't all that worth it for the most part. Hour of Promise can go get any kind of land, so that can really help us, especially with fetch lands, so we can get extra landfall triggers from that. We're going to go Grow from the Ashes as well. You can kick that one and get 2 lands instead of 1, essentially, to play untapped. Far Wanderings would be a threshold. That could be absolutely huge. Yeah, Jaheira's Respite. We can do this one with a great fog effect, essentially, and then getting a ton of lands into play off that. Vastwood Surge, a great finisher for us, as well as ramping and basically Explosive Vegetation. 2 lands for 4 mana, but on top of that, if you kick it, get 2 counters on all your creatures. That could be absolutely huge. Speed of Creatures, Primal Growth. Sacrifice a creature to kick this and get 2 lands instead of 1. Fauna of Fertility, basically a Wayfarer's Bauble, but enchantment version. Edge of Autumn, early on, great. Later on, great as well. You can cycle it away by sacrificing a land. Early on, it's basically, rampant growth, essentially. And we're kind of, you know what? I mean, Nissa's Renewal is great. 6 mana, 3 lands. We're going to have a ton of options to pick from. This is probably a good place to start, though. Do we go Terramorph? Do we go, oh my goodness, almost missed it. Although I probably have this on a future tactic as well. But Perilous Forays, a great one. Sacrifice creatures, go get lands. Again, this is basically a combo with our commander because you sacrifice a creature, you go get a land, you make an elemental. You sacrifice a creature, you go get a land, you make an elemental. And all while doing this, you are essentially as well pinging your opponents with lightning bolt damage. Yeah, let's stop right there, though. A good start for our lands. All right, next up, tactic number 2, additional lands. And actually, I made a list ahead of time this time. I actually thought ahead. Good for me. Explore, play additional land this turn, draw a card. Yet another way to get extra lands into play. A lot of extra land effects that stay on the field are more expensive than, my limit right now to keep this very budget-friendly. Again, less than $20 in total, 50 cents. We're probably going to see a lot of those. That being said, Escape to Wilds is a great one. Essentially, Additional impulse draw as well as additional land. That is absolutely huge. Summer Bloom, massive. We're going to have a ton of lands in this stack. Go get, an extra 3 lands from your hand, throw them into play, and get a lot of extra land drops. Scale the Heights is a little expensive for what it does. And here's Live the Forming, though. My goodness. Sacrifice a ton of lands, draw a ton of cards, get extra lands into play. A lot of triggers from our commander. During Discovery, if you need to go get 2 lands from your library in your hand, you can. If not, get 2 extra ones into play. Beanstalk Worm. Yeah, I mean, the reach is not all that, impactful, I guess. A 5-4 with reach if we can. There we go. 5-4 with reach. But yeah, just being able to just play on turn 2, get additional land into play can really ramp us quickly. Or again, when our commander is in play, get extra lands. That can be absolutely massive. Enter the Unknown. Yeah, we'll go with that one as well. That might be a cut, though. We shall see. Next up, tactic number 3, land, hand, battlefield. Again, there's a lot of different ways to get lands into play. We had ramp, go get a land from the outside, get an extra land from your hand, put into play, or just land from your hand directly into play. Broken Bond is a great example of that, and also one that is great removal as well. Pen of Prosperity, it's going to be hard for us to, convince an opponent to be like, hey, do an extra land, and I'll do an extra land. They're like, you get a 5/5 when you do that. And you can lightning bolt me in the face. They probably won't do that. Llanowar Scout can be a great one, though, of course. Tap to get a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Or Boreal Grazer. 1 mana to do so. Yeah, sure, we're going to include that one right now. Sky Shroud Ranger, again, amazing. Tap to get those lands in place. So again, basically extra lands each turn if we have extra lands in our hand. Scaled Herbalist, basically exact same thing. Baduka Gardener can be a great finisher as well, and it does make, I believe, elementals, yes. So, essentially, when it flips, after you get to 10 lands, you can pay 6 mana and tap, make an XX elemental or X number of lands you control, which is going to be an absurd amount. Crows and Wayfarer, we can actually sacrifice them when we need to, so we can just, get out and play early, sacrifice when we need to, get an extra land from your hand into play. Swell of Growth's just okay, I think. Loam Dweller, Patient Naturalist. I think we're probably good with that, so we're just going to stop right there, and we're probably not done with lands just yet, of course. Moving on, how about some elemental synergies? Again, our commander is itself an elemental, and our elementals that were, of course, elementals. They're the ones that we make with our lands. They're elementals. So we're going to use some synergies with things like Thicket Crasher. It's got Trample. It gives our elementals Trample, which can be massive. So our opponents can't just chump block our 5/5s. Instead, we're going to be getting damage through with them. Speaking of damage, though, Chandra Novice Pyromancer can be a great one for us. An extra +1. Elementals you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Turning our 5/5 elementals into 7/5 elementals, that's a lot of additional damage. And of course, we've got room for plenty of blockers out there as well to protect this over time. I mean, your opponents can try to dedicate a lot of resources to take this out, but good luck to them, because if we have any ways to make lands while they're trying to do so, we can just get some extra blockers in play too. Creeping Trailblazer is going to be great as well. A low to the ground elemental, other elementals get +1/+0. You can also pay 4 mana, 2 red and a green. It gets +1/+1 for each elemental you control until end of turn. That can be an absurd amount, essentially. Like, you swing with this tiny 2/2, and they're like, this player's got 12 mana available and 10 elementals in play. What do I do? You need to block it. If you don't block it, you're in trouble. And then we've got Caterwauling Boggart, if I said that right. This one says, each elemental you control can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Essentially, Menace, making elementals harder to block. That, of course, can be absolutely huge. Scampering Scorcher is only temporary. Elemental control can haste up turn when this ETBs. We're not really going to care about that too much. Next up, this is the Anthem. Throw your hands up, of course. Castle Embrinth. We've got, it's on a land, essentially. This can actually give our creatures +1/+0. Again, when you're going so wide with already a massive army of 5/5s, giving them extra power can just be icing on top of the cake. And again, one that comes from a land is great. Rising of the Day, this does pump our commander by 1. Cool. We don't really care too much about that. We care about creatures we control get haste. We can swing right away with our elementals. Again, when you can get 3, 4, 5 lands into play on your turn sometimes, and you're like, oh, okay. That's 25 power worth of creatures. Let's swing right away. That can be just absolutely disgusting. Enraged Forerunners as well. +2/+2, Vigilance and Trample until end of turn for our creatures on this ETBs. That can be absolutely massive. Overrun, Overrun is incredible. For such a simple card, 5 mana, +3/+3, and Trample to our creatures, making them 8/8s. That can be absolutely huge. Repeatable Glorious Sunrise. This one can help in a couple of ways. First up, pump our creatures by 1, give them all Trample. That's lovely. Or we can give a land, the ability to tap for 3, which basically makes it tap for, 2 extra most of the time, essentially. Draw a card if you need to. If you've got a creature with power 3 or greater, yeah, we have that requirement. Or gain 3 life. This is a very flexible card, but again, great in a lot of situations. Overall, honestly, just okay, I guess. That does cost a good amount of mana. Tower defense, no. Haze of Rage, maybe, but probably not. You see a pair of goblins, not really. We're kind of running out of good anthems after this, but we just finally found one. Here we go. Kamal Fist of Kroza. This one's incredible, this kind of a commander. Again, this commander is all about ramp. Get a lot of lands into play. This is a great card for a couple of reasons. First of all, we can pay a green and make a land a 1/1. So if we need to add to our army, we can. On top of that, by paying 5 mana, 2 green, green, green. Did I say that right? Anyways, creature control get +2 to trample on a turn. Basically a repeatable overrun effect that is absolutely huge. Pump our entire army again and again and again. Your opponents are going to be in big trouble. Also, sneaky play here that some players might not enjoy, but I think is completely fair. You can kind of hold your opponents hostage with Kamal when it comes to them trying to wrath the board, which they will be trying to wrath the board because you've got an absurd number of elementals in play. And you'll be like, oh, okay, hey, you're about to cast the Wrath of God. If you do that, I see that you've got 7 lands in play. I've got 7 green mana available. I will turn your lands into creatures, and you will wrath your own lands, and they will be gone. Some players might say, hey, that's mass land destruction. Others might say they decide to cast the Wrath spell. So it depends on your playgroup, but my playgroup says, don't cast the Wrath spell if I've got Kamal in play. Deal with Kamal first. So it is kind of like Wrath protection as well. Guys, Anthem, it might be very simple, but it's very effective, okay? +1/+1 to your creatures. That is absolutely huge for you. Ferocity of the Wilds, that's just attacking. I'd rather have just like the creatures, all of them getting it. Oh, Gruul War Chant, there we go. Attacking creatures get +1 with 0 and have menace. That's a very good one as well. Let's stop right there for Anthems, though. But yeah, a lot of great ways to pump RT. Moving on, let's talk about other landfall. Ironically, Omnath does show up on this. Let's not add a Omnath into 99 as well. That's not allowed. Rampaging Baloths is a great one, though. Of course, every single time a land comes into play, on top of us getting a 5/5 from our commander, we get a 4/4 beast thanks to this. On top of it being just a 6/6 beast, which is great. Tireless Tracker, let's make a bunch of clues. So some extra card advantage for us. And also, when we sacrifice those, get counters on this to make it massive. Spore Mound, make some 1/1s in addition. Again, even if you're just making tiny creatures, again, our Anthems, our pump effects can really help with that as well. Restricted Xandu, some players really like that. I don't really find that the 1 counter each time is really all that impactful, unless you're really going to take opponents out with, commander damage maybe. Gaining 2 life each time, that's just okay for me as well. Seer's Sundial, though, yeah, massive amounts of card advantage. Geode Rager, goading creatures your opponents control. Until it's a 1-on-1 scenario, essentially, with this commander, you're never going to get attacked by your opponent's creatures. So, have fun with that. Phylath World Sculptor, and also opens them wide up for you to swing at them, too. When this ETBs, you make a massive number of plants, and on top of that, whenever you get a land into play, get 4 counters on a plant. That can be absolutely huge. And I do shorthand counters to +1/+1 counters, so keep that in mind. Primeval Bounty. Sure, let's gain a lot of life, and on top of that, when we're casting our creature spells, we get extra beasts. When we cast non-creature spells, we get counters on creatures. It's a lot of extra value. It might be a cut for this, though. We will see. Nesting Dragon, I cannot believe is budget-friendly. This card used to be like $5 or so. Getting lands into play, making dragon eggs. When those get taken out, you can make dragon creature tokens with flying and fire breathing. And I will just spoil something here right now. We do have some sacrifice outlets we'll talk about here in a little bit, so we can actually force that egg to become a dragon. We don't really care too much about just individual creatures getting larger for the most part, like Oran Reef Hydra. Oh, just move that one. There we go. Excuse that. Tunneling Geopede can be a great one, though, as well. Getting lands into play, pinging your opponents, that can be absolutely huge. Yeah, you know what? I think that might be, I guess this Spitfire Legak, yeah, let's add that as well. This one is going to be extra damage as well onto our opponents. Gaining life, some players really like, again, just like gaining a bunch of life. I don't find that nearly as useful. I did just say, no individual creatures pumping, because Omnath is a bit of a different one because this is an MDFC land. We do need to be careful with this commander because we probably have a lot of, non-basics that we'll be utilizing that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but still, Omnath can be a great one. And I think we're probably running out right here when it comes to actual landfall effects that are... Okay, the Hellkite, though. That's a lot of extra damage for us. And from there, let's just stop this tactic. I will say with these types of episodes, it's kind of hard to decide, when to stop tactics, because I'm like, okay, I've got, 4 more I've got to talk about in only 7 minutes, and now I'm wasting time right now. Regardless, sacrifice outlets. I talked about how sacrifice outlets can be great for this kind of a commander, because, again, you can force the issue. With this kind of a commander, if you have a certain number of elementals in play, and a certain number that you can sacrifice right then and there, you can hold players hostage. If a player is down to, 9 life, and you've got 3 elementals in play, and you can sacrifice them, they can't do anything to stop you. You can say, yeah, you know what? you're going to be out of here, okay? Do not come after me. If you come after me, you are in trouble, and I will take you out. So you can kind of hold players hostage, make them do what you want them to do. Just having a sacrifice out is very nice, of course. On top of that, because sometimes opponents maybe have, like, exile all creatures, and obviously that doesn't get you your triggers, so you want to be able to sacrifice creatures when you can. Evolutionary Leap is a great one. Pay a green, sacrifice a creature. Again, lightning bolt an opponent when it's an elemental, and reveal off the top of your library so you hit a creature. That's absolutely lovely. Dark Dweller Oracle, sacrifice creatures. All of a sudden, exile the top card of your library, you can play it. So Impulse Draw, which is nice. Calling Deus, not repeatable. I mean, it's repeatable in that you can do it each turn, but you'd have to tap it to do so. Sacrifice creatures, get charge counters on it, then sacrifice it for 1 mana to draw a lot of cards. Already talked about Perilous Forays and how amazing that is, so keep that in mind. Magus of the Order, those elementals that you sacrifice, or that you're going to be sacrificing that you make, are red and green. By sacrificing this and a green creature, tutor out a green creature out of your entire library. That is absolutely huge. Makeshift Munitions, basically a worse Goblin Bombardment, which unfortunately is not less than 50 cents, but that's okay. But yeah, being able to sacrifice things to ping, that can be very nice as well. Let's talk about, oh goodness, where is it? There's got to be Blister Pod, right? I mean, already over Blister Pod. I'm talking about, what's the slug one? Goodness gracious, I am messing up on this right now, but we got to find it. It's got to be here somewhere. Oh, it's over 50 cents, that's why. So you only have so many options, again, when you're building at this low of a amount, but it's okay, and let's go Shivan Harvest as well. Repeatable sacrificing outlet to actually get rid of non-basics. It depends on your player with this one. If you have opponents that use a lot of non-basics, a lot of powerful ones like Gaia's Cradle and those kind of things as well, do so and take out their things. Other than that, yeah, I mean, you know what, Phyrexian Vault, let's get some extra, sacrifice. Let's get some extra card draw in there as well with our sacrificing. We got a free sacrifice outlet here with Magarden Dragon Hearts. Keep that in mind. Ooze Garden, we can sacrifice our elementals to make them into oozes as well. I'm thinking that we are probably at the end of our sacrificing with this, though. A lot of great choices for us, too. Okay, card advantage / card selection with this kind of a tactic. Of course, we've got a lot of great options with this. I can't remember if I actually started a list, so my apologies. I think I did. Here we go. Faceless Looting, a great one. Basically, again, a great looting effect that we can repeat. Throw a Possibility, discard a card to draw 2. Harmonize, very simple, very effective, draw 3. Idol of Oblivion, yes. Just tap it to draw a card basically every single turn with this commander because we're making so many tokens. Inspiring Call, we don't really focus on counters too much with this one. Life Crasher's Bestiary is only when you cast creatures, so keep that in mind. We already have Tyler's Tracker, also keep that one in mind as well. Tears of Presence, we're not really into enchantments with this kind of a deck, obviously. Cathartic Reunion, yeah, it's nice. Regrowth, not technically, I mean, it is kind of like card advantage, but it's like getting something back, which is very nice, so that can be very helpful. Hunter's Insight, yeah, we have a lot of creatures. We're going to be getting through on our opponents with them. Basically, if you can get elemental through without any like extra pump effects, it's like 3 mana, instant speed, draw 5. Magus the Wheel, reset hands, yes please. Mask of Memory, that one's more specific. We're not going to, depend on having Trample or way to get through, essentially, with that. Tormenting Voice, slower speed, card advantage. We got sorcery speed, but that's okay. We're probably pretty good. We had other things that we talked about when it came to card advantage earlier. Jax is the Troublemaker, sure. This is kind of more of like a not looting effect, but a rummaging effect, essentially. So, rummage, essentially, and then also get another elemental, and then also lightning bolt someone, which is absolutely lovely. Abundance, choose what you are drawing, so that's obviously very nice. Key to the City, sure, we'll consider that one, get something through, and then also like a delayed rummaging effect with that one as well. We're probably good right here, so we're going to stop it right there. Moving on to removal and wraths. Let's talk about, well, Chaos Warp, which I still cannot believe is budget friendly. I'm not sure how. Reclamation Sage, this one's one where like we don't really have ways to use and abuse the ETB, so we're kind of overpaying and we don't really need like an extra blocker. It's good. It's good, but depends on the deck really. A Braid, that can be very flexible, which is nice. Return to Nature, incredibly flexible. Cankerbloom, sure, there are some very small things that we do have when it comes to counters. We're not going to count on those, but obviously we can just utilize this to destroy an artifact or an enchantment when we need to. It's also a decent threat early on in the game, of course. Decimate, destroy a lot of things. Terrastodon, destroy a lot of things as well. Replace them with 3/3s, but again, we're making 5/5s, so we are completely fine to do so. Neverendal's Disc, get rid of a lot of things. Ram through, we have a lot of power. Get extra damage through, take out things. Artifact, Mutation, we can make a lot of creature tokens with that. Colony Ambush, this one is one where again, it doesn't really take up a spot in the deck. We have to see kind of just how many non-basics we're going to be utilizing in this deck and then kind of determine. But again, yeah, just an extra fight spell that's on one of our non-basics can be absolutely huge. We already have Broken Bond in there, so we'll talk about that later and keep that one in there. Fiery Confluence, very flexible for us. Mizian Mortars, just for our opponent's things, but again, it's lower to the ground, so we shall see if we end up keeping that one, essentially. I can't believe Pest Infestation is somehow budget-friendly now. Goodness gracious with that reprint. That is incredible. Destroying a lot of artifacts, destroying a lot of enchantments, creating twice as many 1/1s that when they die, we gain 1 life. That is absolutely huge. We've got a ton of removal that we already have in this deck right now. Steel Primordium is kind of nice. We just, like, keep it down, keep it around. And opponents might actually change their play patterns and decide not to play certain things because this is actually in play, which is absolutely massive. Woodfall Primus is quite a bit. So is Foundation Breaker is nice as well, but I guess it is elemental. There you go. That is something to keep in mind. It is elemental. So yeah, you can evoke it and basically lightning bolt on top of destroying something too, which is absolutely massive. So keep that in mind. I think we're good with it for there. We got a minute left from our last tactic. Okay, and this is a big one where we're talking about lands, okay? And lands with this deck, again, you do want to... Some people go crazy with non-basics, and basics are amazing, but you'd need to be careful with the number of non-basics you include in decks. This one, you do want to include some because essentially some lands count as 2, like Evolving Wilds. That counts as 2 lands basically for you. So is Terramorgan Expanse. It's 2 landfall triggers. Again, this ETB's cool. Get your, get your 5/5. I'll sacrifice it. Go get any other land, essentially, any other basic, and then go get that into play, and then also get an ETB. Mirror Landscape. But also, you want to have basics in there so that you can tutor for them with these things. Mirror Landscape, we get 2 lands into play. Blighted Woodland, exact same thing, essentially, except they don't share a type. Ghost Quarter, no, it's more for our opponents. Field of Ruin, that ramps everyone. When it comes to, like, these, the new Capenna lands, let's talk about ones that, where's the, let's see, I think Maestro's Theater, no, Storefront. I'm trying to think of which one, actually. Might not be budget-friendly, actually, not budget-friendly, but less than 50 cents. Oh, I'm running out of time. Grasslands, yes. Gyre Terrace Bassett, I just lost track a little bit. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. Escape Tunnel, definitely. Warp Landscape, definitely. Terminal Rain, Promising Vein, and I think we're good just right in time. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed that. Just got there right. The clock was just going down, and I didn't even realize that I was running out of time that quickly. Yeah, it's a really fun commander, though. It is one that, again, you can just go ham. Again, ramping is already a powerful thing in a commander, and you are taking advantage of that, getting a ton of lands into play, getting a lot of creatures out there, sacrificing them potentially, lightning bolt people in the face, hitting people hard. You gotta love the Angry Jelly Bean. If you are interested in this deck, again, I'm gonna have the curated list at the end of this episode, and I will put the deck list link in the description below. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.